up troops, welcome back to the Litanah army. I'm Lit and this is Wayfinder, a game that I have been absolutely loving. So if you are a fan of Fortnite Save the World or some of the old content that I did before, Wayfinder is a game that just really fits. Now what we're going to look at today is the best starter class for new players. So you have got a choice of three when you first start. You have got Wingrave, who's like a tanky player, you've got Silo, who is like ranged DPS, and then you've got Nis, who is the up-close personal assassin who deals out massive damage. So they're all very different, they've got different playstyles, and it can be a little bit confusing which one to pick when you first start. Now the good news is you are going to get to use all the characters throughout the game, so it's not going to be one where you're just tied in. And what's great is that the developers are bringing out new characters all the time, so I think over time they're going to extend the game, they're going to extend the story, they're going to extend a lot of the content that you can do. The end game, which we're nowhere near yet, is looking really exciting. So when we get to the end game, you're going to have a whole wealth of characters who we can use, and we can either go into that solo or PvE, and it looks really exciting. This game's had quite the journey so far. We will get into that journey later on, so if you've not subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you can follow that journey already. But let's have a quick look and dive into each of the three starter characters so you can see which one suits you best. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at here is Wingrave, who is a powerful starting character and ideal for those who prefer a tank-like playstyle with a mix of melee offense and team support. Now, here's a breakdown to help kind of guide your early level progression and see how he stacks up against the other two, Silo and Nis. Now, Wingrave is a classic tank with abilities designed to absorb damage and support the team with healing buffs. If you've an ex-World of Warcraft player, for example, think more like a paladin tank. This is kind of what Wingrave's playstyle is. So his skills encourage players to stay on the front lines, drawing enemy attention while using Divine Aegis to protect himself and his nearby allies. Now, this protective skill reduces incoming damage, making him a resilient option in those close combat situations, and is particularly useful in co-op gameplay. Now, Wingrave's offensive skills really shine with Judgment and Wrath. These are two abilities that he's got which deal damage in a wide area and are perfect for managing groups of enemies, so he's got a little bit of crowd control in there as well if you're into that kind of thing. Judgment unleashes a burst of damage and heals all allies around him, so positioning is always crucial in this game. It's not just a button mashing game like it sometimes appears. I know when I first saw this game I thought it looked like a bit of a button masher, a bit of a hack and slash kind of game, but it's absolutely not. Now, Wrath, for example, is ideal for creating distance from foes while doing heavy damage, making Wingrave not only defensive, but is also capable of punishing enemy groups effectively. Now, some early game leveling tips, if you like, for Wingrave. For early game leveling, prioritise abilities and equipment that enhance his defensive stats, so like health and armour. Focus on these stats as it amplifies Wingrave's natural durability, letting him stay on the front lines for longer. So unlock Divine Strike as early as what you can, as it combines healing with offense, and it actually reinforces Wingrave's role as both a tank and a healer. So, you know, someone looking for a healing class, maybe you've played a priest in games that have the Holy Trinity, maybe you've played a paladin, or something like that, or a druid, then, you know, that's exactly the kind of character that this guy comes across at. The only thing is he's built like a tank, and he can take down any enemies around him. So Wingrave should be the go-to character for those who enjoy playing a sturdy team protector. So if you like the healing classes, or if you like the tank classes, or maybe you like both, then his mix of offense and team support make him an invaluable asset, especially when paired with characters like Silo and Nis, and there's a lot more of those characters who he pairs really well with, but they rely on his ability to manage the threat up close while he can soak up damage so they can do their thing and dish out insane amounts of pain. So that brings us nicely onto Silo then. So Silo in Wayfinder is an agile ranged character specialising in speed, evasion and critical damage, and he's perfect for players who enjoy striking from a distance and keeping mobile. So in this guide we're going to look at how you can master Silo in the early game, introducing tips, progression and how he differs from Wingrave and Nis as well, because I always think in these videos it's good to have a bit of a comparison. So Silo excels at hit and run tactics, so his skill set focuses on dealing rapid damage from a distance while avoiding direct combat. Using his explosive flask ability, Silo can throw flasks and deal area damage, helping to control groups of enemies and create space. His shrapnel mine is another powerful tool for zoning, letting you set traps for incoming enemies and forcing them to take a different route or risk explosive damage. Silo's ultimate ability, Deadeye, significantly boosts his range attack for a short time, allowing for massive critical attacks from a safe distance. This ability is especially effective against tougher enemies or bosses, as it can quickly chip away at large health pools. Deadeye rewards precise, quick aiming and is essential for any Silo player looking to maximise his potential in those intense battles. So when leveling Silo early on, you want to focus on building up his attack speed, his critical damage, and his evasion. So just so you guys can remember that, that's attack speed, critical damage, and evasion. They're the three massive things that you need for a Silo player. So these stats enhance his natural strengths and keep him in motion, which is what Silo is all about. This allows him to make the most of his ranged attacks while avoiding incoming damage. Now the explosive flask is an early must-have, as it's great for crowd control and it can clear out weaker mobs and just gives you breathing room when you're trying to clear out dungeons. For Silo's gear, you want to prioritise items that have attack speed and agility, which allow Silo to fire more frequently and reposition himself easily. Boosting his evasion or movement speed is also helpful, as these all make it easier to maintain distance from enemies without constantly dodging. So finding the right balance between damage and survivability is key, since Silo lacks the defensive power of the tank characters such as Wingrave. So for players who love staying on the move, Silo is a fast-paced ranged character whose trap setting and critical damage make him ideal for strategic, high-mobility combat. He works well in teams with tankier characters like Wingrave or stealthier DPS like Nis, keeping enemies at bay and dealing high damage from a distance. So the last of the three starting characters then is Nis, and Nis is the stealthy, agile assassin designed for players who love high-risk, high-reward playstyles focused on precision and burst damage. So here's an overview of how to play Nis and some key early game tips on how she compares with Wingrave and on Silo. So Nis excels at close range burst damage, specialising in high impact attacks on single targets and weaving in and out of combat. Her playstyle is all about striking swiftly, then retreating to avoid retaliation. So with her Shadow Step ability, Nis can teleport short distances, which allow for quick escapes and surprise attacks at the same time. This skill is especially useful for getting behind the enemies or dodging heavy attacks, making Nis both unpredictable and hard to catch. Her Void Slash ability deals area of effect damage and is perfect for clearing groups of weaker enemies or softening up those big targets. Shadow's Embrace, which is her ultimate, shrouds Nis in a cloak of darkness, increasing her movement speed, boosting her damage, and making her absolutely invulnerable for a short time. This is ideal for executing high damage attacks without risking immediate retaliation, which lets you get up close and deal significant damage before retreating back into the shadows. So how do we level up Nis in Wayfinder? Well, in the early game, focus on boosting her critical damage, agility and evasion. These stats play to Nis's strengths, enhancing her burst damage potential while increasing her chances of evading attacks. Unlock Shadow Step as soon as possible to give you an escape option to make repositioning much easier while you're fighting. This ability will allow you to strike from unpredictable angles, keeping your attacks highly effective and minimising your exposure to the enemy counterattacks. Look for gear that boosts attack speed and critical chance. These will amplify her damage output, allowing for quick eliminations in tight situations. Movement speed is also useful for Nis, as it allows her to quickly dodge out of combat and reposition before enemies can retaliate. Aim to improve her survivability indirectly through evasion and agility rather than through health and armour, because Nis isn't built really to withstand heavy damage, so making these two skills much more effective. So Nis is the go-to character for players who enjoy that high-risk, high-reward stealth gameplay. With her burst damage and evasive abilities, she's perfect for picking off priority targets and keeping enemies on their toes. Her playstyle complements both defensive characters like Wingrave and ranged specialists like Silo, making her a really valuable asset in any team. So there you have it. So this was a guide really to help new players who are trying to choose the best new starter character in Wayfinder. It can be difficult. As I said, there are so many different characters who you can pick from. Each have got their own different playstyles. But let me know in the comments which one's going to be your main. Now do remember, you're not stuck with this character for the whole game, you are going to be using the other characters as well. What you tend to do is you will level one character up, ergo your favourite. I'm using Silo at the moment, but you may use, one of the others who we discussed. They're all really good. Wingrave's really fun to play, and Nis is, you feel really deadly and powerful when you're using Nis, so they've all got their own strengths. But what you will do is you'll level one character up as your main, and you'll have the other characters who you'll level up alongside. Maybe when there are like gaps, progression gaps, then what you'll do, you'll log on to the other character to build up materials and resources, and then hop back over to your main. And eventually, once we're all really great at this game and we're all at the end game and we're making all these advanced guides later on, then what we will likely do is have it where we've got all the characters unlocked and we're waiting for new characters to come out as well, and it's just going to be really fun. For those of you who love Fortnite Save the World, I think this game matches up really, really well. So, you know, if you're someone from my old subscriber group, or maybe you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Drop me a comment below. I really, really want to know who you guys are going to be maining. You know, who's your best of these three? Do you know, who's your favorite of the three that we've just said? Who was your main go-to character when we first started? And we've got other characters to look at, obviously, in the future as well. But massive, massive thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care now.